This skin is ridiculous. Today's topic is FM23 skins, but not just any skin. This is by far the best I've used in all my years of playing Football Manager. On virtually every video I've put out this game cycle, the most common comment has been, what is this skin and where do I get it? And the same goes for stream, where the !skin command is triggered over 50 times per stream. Speaking of that, you can find me on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays over on Twitch. What a segue. What a segue. When I'm looking for skins, my main criteria is to get as much information as possible with the fewest clicks. But none of that matters if the presentation is a mess. This one hits the sweet spot, so stick around, as later in the video I'm going to show you how not only is it potentially a game changer for scouting, but also make some changes to the sidebar that I believe it's been crying out for. For now, let's jump in, shall we? This is Saz23, created by Sazmaz. You will find, of course, down in the description to this video, a link to the download folder for this skin. It will always contain the newest version of the skin, so you're not left looking for links from the past. I imagine 99% of you know how to install a skin for FM, but just in case you don't, let's see if I can do this in one breath. Fast speaking Matt incoming. All right, fine, faster speaking Matt. The link in the description will take you to here. You're going to want to download the one that applies to you, put it in My Documents, Sports Interactive, Football Manager 2023/skins. Next, boot up Football Manager, go to preferences, select the skin you need in there, just reset the cache to be safe, hit confirm, and you should be on the same page as us. Boom, done. I know I can speak quickly sometimes, but this time it just felt like it was necessary. The player profile screens now contain basically every piece of information you could ever want to know about a player. I'm fairly certain that his shoe size and potentially even his favorite pizza topping are in here somewhere. I haven't found them yet, but if you do, let me know. When you load the skin, your attribute colors will be just the default. This is just the way I have mine set up. Out of interest, if you do ever want to change that yourself, go to the preferences, type in skin, hit skin colors, and you can change it all in here. It shows their footedness on the main screen. There's big boxes here for squad comparison and pros and cons, although this can also function as part of a data hub, but more on that in a second. When you load the skin for the first time, almost all these boxes are going to be set to career stats, so set of course things up however you want, or you could just pause the video and copy the settings that I currently have here if you like the look of it. If I could just slide myself to the left here for a second, you'll also notice that player training is on the main screen, and it's just useful to have that information. But the biggest thing for me that I like about this is the tabs that are available along the top here, and this is where it gets lovely. You can get an even more detailed training breakdown from within their main profile page, even to be able to praise and criticize them from here. I know you can do that up there, but it's just easier, isn't it? Information and happiness tabs are of course also available at the click of a button down here too, as are contract info, transfer status information, and medical report stuff, all without leaving this page. But the really cool stuff for me as well is the fact that statistics are available here, but also bloody data hub stuff can be pinned inside this menu for every single player individually, as was always the feature, but now it's displayed on their main profile page like this if you want it. And I just really like all that stuff amalgamated into one screen is just fire. You'll also notice this stats tab up towards the very top, and this of course then sources more information from the data hub. You get your overview tab, but it can also be broken down through attacking, mid, and defensive statistics, as well as goalkeeper as well. Not that that applies to my man Cheerio here, what a name by the way, but it also has a specific separate tab for per 90-minute statistics, and you know how important those can be, so that's just really damn useful. The other really cool thing is this doesn't just apply to players that play for your club. This can apply to any player who is in a playable league, and by that I don't mean that you've got it switched on, just that they're in a playable league in the base game, which means you can get some detailed statistics about players that you may want to sign without actually having to leave this page, which I just think is really nice. As you can see here, this is just a random player at Arsenal. He's only got a small amount of minutes played, but nevertheless, we still have statistics for him, despite the fact that I don't have England switched on in this particular database. Now, the squad views themselves haven't actually changed that much, but you have now got access to a few extra views by default. Saz has been kind enough to add his squad view into here. To add to that, you'll see a couple of the views that I've contributed to this, such as my team analysis, my national team scouting, and my loan farm view. Aside from these views and some back and forth about concepts for certain screens, that's as far as my involvement in this goes. I just wanted to sort of be transparent about that. The tactics screen is largely unchanged. Now, in the base game, of course, you can minimize the actual tactics block to enable you to see more of the statistics on this side, but Saz has found a nice middle ground by allowing you to sort of expand the substitutes bench on this side, thus allowing you more space on both sides of the screen to just see more information. He's also built in a tactics view should you want to use it. And those of you that were fans of the percentages when it comes to match sharpness and stuff like that will be happy, because they're back. But don't worry, the hearts are still there, and you can see all that stuff in the match day screens as well. Even the staff screens have changed. No longer do these enormous charts take up the entire screen, wasting loads of space. Instead, that space is now filled up with your coaching team, recruitment team, and medical team underneath all of them. Not only that, they all have different filtered views, so you can see things at a really quick glance, yet again, without leaving the screen. One of my favorite things about this skin is just the amount of things that you can do without having to click about 7 menus to do it. And speaking of staff, their profiles have slightly changed to once again allow more information to be gathered on the main screen. Club information pages have also changed to once again display as much information as possible, including the addition of the finance and salary tab. And much like the player profile, it also benefits from the tab system, where you can access the starting 11, best 11, facilities, history summary, managerial summary, transfer history of course, and just general facts, all from the main profile page. Even the pages for individual stadiums have had an upgrade and now display way more information that's actually visible, rather than the date being cut off at the side of the screen for some reason, like there was often the case last year. Match days themselves have also changed, and for me, definitely for the better. I just really like this little touch here of the match day ticket, which will change depending on what competition, all sorts of other lovely stuff in there too. Just like nice little touches. Halftime is a similar story, where of course you've got your main statistics in here, you've got your advice, but you can also access things like shots, heat maps, and passing networks through the middle of the screen, along with all the other good stuff like your player statistics and analytical data is just a touch of a button away. But the in-match stats for me are where things really take off. You get all the basic stuff that you have in the default skin. However, there are separate home and away tabs that you can set up however you like to give extra information about the different sides. On top of that, there's also a separate analysis tab which shows more detailed shot maps, heat maps, and of course XG story. Team stats again can be found here with way more detail available just inside the actual touchline tablet itself, and a giant passing network map as well is available inside the touchline tablet, which updates throughout the game. Just little stuff like that I just love. Please try to ignore the absolutely shocking result in the match. I assure you that the skin does not control that. So I said the sidebar had been changed slightly, so let's get into that. All I've ever wanted was to be able to add my own shortcuts to certain menus within the game to the sidebar here for nice quick access. I know there are keyboard shortcuts, but it's just not the same, damn it, until now. Now, bear in mind, this is a work in progress, but I still think it's a massive step in the right direction. You'll notice in this bottom left-hand corner, there is an area called Bookmarks, which for me is one of the most underutilized parts of the game, and for good reason. But now that changes. So if you have a screen that you access quite a lot, but takes a lot of clicking and various busy work to actually get into, you can now put that here. So how it works is this. Just go to a screen that you use quite a lot in the game, but is a bit of a pain in the arse to get to. So for me, UEFA coefficients charts. I use them all the time over on stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin this down here. Once we're on the page we want to add to it, we go to the world icon, then scroll across to bookmarks, then hit add this page to bookmarks. Call it whatever you like, but ideally the shorter the better. We're going to call it coefficients. Don't add it into a folder, and then hit add. You'll now notice that in the bottom left hand side of the screen, there is a tab that says coefficients, and when you click it, it takes you straight there. It's just, I wish this was a default feature of the game. Just let me add stuff here. Damn it, let me do that. Right, I promised we'd talk about scouting center stuff, because there's some stuff in here that I, again, would love to see in the full version of the game, but this for me is just as adding QOL stuff, and it's fantastic. If you're like me and tend to get through enormous amounts of players when doing scouting, then no doubt you will be using the list view to make that happen. Normally, your scouting center and inbox will look something like what you're seeing on screen right now. This is just a screenshot I took to sort of on the default skin to show that off. Not a lot of information here, really, is there? I still to this day have no earthly idea why we're not allowed to add our own custom columns to these like you can in most views in the game. I can actually feel the anger rising up in me again. I'm sure there's a coding and programming reason for it, but it is quite frustrating, especially with the new recruitment and scouting stuff this year. But switching back, SAS has gone to great lengths to at least enable a little bit more information to be gathered on these screens now. As far as I can tell, it keeps all of the basic information that is present in the default, but then builds on top of it with stuff that is super useful for quick glance and just quick scouting. One thing that I specifically asked for was for the player's name and the player's club to be separated into separate columns, because it makes it much easier for you to then filter this by the club to find any players who are potentially free agents, whereas before that was oddly difficult on those screens. As it happens, every single player in this scout report actually has a club. Do not let this distract from my point. Height, foot preference, and personality, if that information is available, are also now listed on this screen. You might think that stuff doesn't matter, but being able to know that this chap here can play on both feet and is 6'4" as a fullback does give you more contextual information that you can use to make quick judgments about players to scout and not scout from these menus. Also contains potential max wage demands, if that information is known, as well as contract contract start and end dates, which again will come through your own scouting, but it's just useful to have it available on this screen. It also adds a second nationality column, which, as a lot of you know, can be sneaky ones, especially when it comes to contract clauses, as well as is EU national, which again, for many saves, can be an incredibly important factor to be able to tell straight off the bat which players are viable for you to even sign is just really useful, especially as I feel like the new recruiting tools just ignore stuff like that and will constantly bring you players that literally cannot sign for you half the time. But that is very much a rant for another day. But these changes don't just affect the things in the scouting center, it also applies to the emails that you receive, and I really like that. Let's just try and find one. It basically shows the exact same information that was then accessible in the scouting center, minus the contract start and end dates and the personality. I think that's purely just to save some space because it does take up less of the screen than the one in the full scouting center. But if you need that, you can of course just deal with this same email from there. But it's still a massive step up over what you get in the default skin. So there we have it. I'm sure there's plenty of things I've actually forgotten to talk about or missed, and you can find those things on your own. I haven't even mentioned some of the things that you can access in this menu here. It just kind of goes on and on and on. But you can discover all those wonders yourself by giving it a go with the instructions we talked about earlier in the video. So like the video, subscribe if you're new, and happy skinning. That sounds a bit weird, actually. Don't do that.